Hello, guys. Yeah, as Chris has said, I would very much like you to feel that you can be involved in the session as well. I don't want you to just have to silently listen to me for the next hour and a half. I don't think anybody deserves to have to do that on a Friday. So you're if you've got if something pops up, right as Chris said, write it in the chat. But there are moments where I'm gonna pause, open up the floor for you guys, and it would be nice to hear some things that you're doing if you feel like you've got something helpful you can share, or if you're struggling with something and you wanted to bring that up as well. It's also very welcome. So yeah, you're I would like you to feel that you can be involved as well. Before moving into the chat properly, well, the title of the talk is mental health and motivation, and especially important at the moment. But really, this, I think, as I was going through my prep, all the stuff I've written down and I'm going to share with you is stuff that is useful all the time. It's not, it's not just pandemic related, but of course this is an extra, especially challenging time. And when they first asked me if I could do a talk about mental health and motivation, I was quite daunted because they're two things that I have personally struggled with a lot in the last year. But then I realised that probably, if anything, makes me more qualified to talk about it, because I can give you my personal experiences and what I've had to do, the things I've had to figure out and work on in order to improve both my mental health and my motivation. So I want to just briefly introduce myself and what I do. DJ and producer under the name of Philth. I write drum and bass, a DJ drum and bass. I've been doing it for sort of professionally for 10 years, and just at the end of 2019, I released part one of my debut album, which is a double LP on Dispatch Recordings, and was DJing a lot. Like through November, December, January of 2020, I was really busy. Released part two of my album the 2nd of February 2020. Had some nice album launch parties lined up, and well, we all know how the next year has gone. So everything just halted overnight. So yeah, I've been working in this industry for a long time, and it is what I do every day. I'm a music obsessive like all of you guys who've chosen to study at a uni. I did the same thing, did a music tech degree, did a master's a few years ago in composition. So music and the music industry is my day in, day out. And overnight, everything was just at a halt. Literally gigs cancelled, postponed. Then it went from, oh, we're going to have a couple of quiet months to save the summer, and then look where we are now. And so the last year has been really challenging for me personally, mostly related just to that sort of sudden, just unexpected, immediate stop to my career and all the work I was going to be doing. So I was supposed to be touring my album in America, Australia, New Zealand. All that stuff was just stops overnight. So I found it really difficult to sort of accept that at first. I was very, very disheartened, down, feeling like all the momentum I've been building had just stopped overnight. And I have found it very difficult to keep the motivation going all the time. And the motivation to write music never really stops. It's almost like a need. I love writing music to the point where I get grumpy if I haven't been in the studio for a week. But suddenly there was less of a purpose to it. So I was trying to just write and pretend that everything was going to, well, we were all hoping that the pandemic was going to be 2 or 3 months, is what we were being told in the news at first. So at first you have that motivation of, yeah, I'm just going to push on, write some tunes, and soon we're going to be back out playing them anyway. But then with that not happening, and with the situation worsening in this country in so many ways, I hit a really low patch in the second half of last year where to be quite frank, I was just suffering from depression pretty badly, and struggling with motivation for why I was doing music, because the link for me is always I make music to play on the dance floor. So without dance floors, suddenly there was sort of, what am I making the music for? So yeah, I've had quite a difficult year in figuring all this stuff out. But then equally, there have been a lot of high points as well, because I said I've been struggling for motivation, but I've had to rethink a lot of stuff and my mental approach. And that approach has led to some really exciting stuff happening and writing some of the best music I've ever done, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know yet. I haven't played it to anybody at a club. They might all leave, but it feels like I've been writing some of the best music I've ever done. I'm just about to relocate in a few weeks to a new city. So the point of that as an introduction is that this period has been horrible for everybody, and I think you'll be surprised just how many people have been affected directly with their mental health. So what I wanted to talk about before getting into the music tips really is um what I've had to come to realize, and from talking to friends a lot, is like it's okay to feel bad right now. Nothing like this has ever happened before. There's a lot of bad things going on worldwide. So I'm trying personally, and I'd recommend for you, try not to get too caught up in the news, because there isn't much good news at the moment. But it's normal for this current situation to affect you negatively. So if you are finding it difficult, that's a perfectly normal thing. That's something that I've had to realize, and talking to friends has made that more obvious, because discussing our struggles has helped us to understand everybody's being affected in different ways. A little bit of just stuff I wanted to be really frank about as well. I wanted to talk about the fact I've had these problems with depression, because I want to normalize it and talk about this stuff. It's not something that you should be hiding, and especially at a time like this where it's just completely normal to be run down mentally. So I just want to state that if you personally are feeling low, feeling anxious on a regular basis, don't ignore it and don't think you're just going to push through it, because even at the best of times, that's not really how it works. And at the moment, it's very hard to keep pushing forward when you're being dragged down by the daily news and life. But if you are feeling low, feeling anxious, talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to your teachers as well. Just get it out of your head and into the open, and then you can start looking for solutions. Because that was really important for me. Once I started talking to my friends and saying, I think I'm suffering from depression, then we were able to talk about it and how I was feeling bad. So don't feel like you need to soldier on. And that applies at all times in life, but especially at the moment. And some of the stuff I've done that has been really helpful. After going to my GP, I have done some CBT, which was helpful in helping me rethink my sort of daily actions and how they're affecting my longer term mental health. So thinking really more about my routine, how it affects everything, rather than just the start of your day or your timing of things. Also taking antidepressants. I still am taking a course of antidepressants at the moment, and these things have helped me to be able to help myself more. So yeah, I wanted to really share that and put it out in the open, that a lot of people are really struggling at this time. It's a very normal thing, a natural thing for that to be happening. So if you are, talk to your friends, talk to your family, get it out of your head and into the open, and you'll find that many people are having a similar experience, and you can work together to push through it. So a bit of a serious and solemn start, but I thought I wanted to really share what's been going on with me and why I feel equipped to help and offer my tips in this area, because I've had to really work hard to get myself mentally back on track and get my motivation back in music. So what was really important for me, and it came out of doing my CBT actually, is working on my routine and my lifestyle in general, because I really am like a textbook workaholic. I do music for a living and I do private teaching. So I spend all day, every day talking about electronic music. And then when I finish teaching people, I go in the studio afterwards, and I love it. But that is not always the healthiest way to live. So I've had to think a lot more about my daily routine and how it affects my productivity, my ability to write music effectively. So, and one part of that I realized is, although I've been self-employed for a while, I still had a much better routine before this all happened, because without the routine involved in traveling to work or traveling to uni, going out to see your friends on a regular basis, it's really easy to fall into bad habits. So it's worthwhile having a step back, analyzing your sort of daily routine and work on what you're doing. So some of the stuff that I've done has really helped me. I developed a better morning routine. Because I'm terrible in the mornings. I'm a night owl, so I'm not up bright and early at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. Maybe 9 if you're lucky, maybe 10, 11. But I'm not too worried about the time I get up, because I work later hours, often teach in the evenings. But what I wasn't doing well was starting my day properly. Like, I would just have a sluggish start and then really no structure to my day. So now I've worked on a morning routine. I eat the same breakfast every day, so I don't have to think about it when I get up. I eat fruit because it's healthy, and I eat crumpets with loads of butter because it's filling. So there's a bit of a yin and yang there. But yeah, knowing what I'm going to have and eating the same breakfast is making sure I do eat healthily every day. I don't look at emails when I get up. which is really easy to do in the modern age with your phone. You know, you can be reading your emails and replying before you've even got out of bed, and that's really unhealthy for your brain. So what I do in the morning is I watch basketball, watch NBA every morning, eat my breakfast, and I start the day with a relaxing start rather than stressing about what I'm going to say to this person. I don't start work until I'm dressed. Get out of your pajamas, and that can apply to uni work or just your own music work. You feel more yeah, you feel better about yourself if you make the effort to get up, get dressed, get ready for work. And you're sitting at your computer like a normal day at work. I mean, some of this would apply more to people that work in an office and university, but you know, the principle is the same. Don't try and get in a routine of getting up, get dressed, eat well. Something that's really important for me, and it's very difficult as an artist, is not too much social media or news, because it will really drag you down. If you keep following all the latest updates on the pandemic and the employment situation and Brexit and all the other negative things that are happening in this country, it's really draining. So I've become more aware of that, and when I do use social media, I try to have a purpose. Like why did I actually log onto Facebook? Is it to post about something, or is it to look for something in particular, or am I just scrolling pointlessly? Because when you scroll pointlessly, not only do you feel negative after because you wasted time, but you normally get sucked into some rubbish, some argument or some drama. So like I try and set myself a time limit. I might say, oh, I'm gonna sit and look at Facebook for 15 minutes because I just want to break and I'm not going to actually do anything, but I'm going to look for 15 minutes and I'm going to get off there. So yeah, trying not to use too much social media is important. Using a calendar is really, really essential and important to me, but not just in the obvious ways. Like I can be quite forgetful, so I need to keep track of my one-to-one teaching, of course, my work schedule and general life events or music events when they were happening. But I also use my calendar to schedule my work time, as in my music work. So what I'm going to do, it might be that I'm going to record a mix for somebody and I've scheduled to do it on Friday, or it might be the songs that I want to work on. So when I've got a free day in the studio, I know what I'm actually going to do. I don't sort of, if I go to the computer and think, oh, what am I going to do today? I could be there for an hour or two, not doing very much. So I use my diary to keep track of what I'm trying to do. And then also I don't feel stressed about particular projects because I know when I'm going to work on them. So if it's, I don't know, a vocal thing that I need to mix, I can tell the vocalist I'm really busy, I'm going to work on it on Thursday and I've scheduled it in, and I know they know. It makes you less stressed. So planning and structuring your time generally, but I actually use my calendar to do that in more ways than just the obvious. Another thing that's really helped me a lot is planning my meals. So eating healthy is a lot easier when you don't try to decide what to eat when you're hungry. I mean, stating the obvious really, but if you wait until you're starving before you eat, you will eat the quickest thing you can find. Quick meals are normally not the healthy ones, and all this stuff adds up to your mental health. And if you're not eating well, not looking after yourself, and your mental health starts to flag, then your professional ability or your musical ability will flag as well. So yeah, I plan what I'm going to do, what I'm going to eat through the week. And that also helps with shopping and budgeting, because you're not just aimlessly buying stuff at the supermarket. And also for me personally, I like to cook, but when you're really hungry, you're not excited about cooking a particular meal. You just want to eat. So if I've planned in ahead, then the cooking time is a good excuse for me to get away from the computer. I might put some music on in the kitchen that's completely different to stuff I work on, and it can be really relaxing. And yeah, I find that planning and scheduling all of this stuff really helps me. More planning, and I plan my relaxation time as well, which might not sound very relaxing to schedule when you're going to relax. But what I mean by that is I plan what I'm going to do in my downtime. Like I have a big list of films that I'm working through. Films are always a big source of inspiration for my music. I like a cinematic sound within the drum and bass world, but I just love film music. I love the emotion, and watching films always gives me ideas to write music. So I find that if I'm now in the modern world, we've got, I've got Netflix, Amazon Prime, Now TV, and Disney Plus. There's 1,000 movies I could watch at any one point. So I made a list of stuff I really wanted to watch, and I work through it. And then it feels like I'm enjoying my downtime more because I'm doing things I really wanted to do. I'm not just, see what's on the TV or scrolling any old crap. And also, when I said scrolling any old crap, it keeps me off social media because I'm actually doing something. Like I'm choosing to watch a film rather than aimlessly watching the TV while scrolling. And again, all that for me, that already feeds into my mental health, because if I spend the whole evening just looking at Facebook aimlessly, not only probably soak up loads of negativity, but I also haven't done anything positive, and then I start to feel down on myself that I just spent an evening doing nothing, looking at Facebook. Whereas watching a film and getting inspired, and I'm never going to feel negative about that. So yeah, all this stuff I schedule a lot of what I'm going to do, so that in those moments when I'm not feeling so good and I'm finding it hard to make a decision, which does happen if you're suffering from anxiety or depression, I've already made a lot of decisions. So I've sort of planned a lot of what I'm going to do. My week can run a lot more smoothly, and I feel a lot happier because of it. Next point on my list, which is a really big one and something that I'm not as good at as I should be, but is go outside. And I think we've been kind of conditioned to like lock ourselves in our homes because of this pandemic, but you can go outside without putting yourself at risk. And even within that context, like making reasons to go out is important so that you don't just rot away in your room the whole time. Because I could spend months in my studio if you let me, but it's not necessarily a healthy thing. So I make reasons to go to the shops. You know, I'm doing a lot of my shopping online, as many people are, but just making a reason where I need to go out and buy something, because the shops, I have to walk through the park. And when I walk through the park, I think, well, I might as well walk slowly around the lake rather than racing home as quickly as I can. So give myself a reason to get out. And I also, coming back to my calendar again, but I schedule social time to meet my friends and go out or something. So going for, I live on the edge of the town where I am, and there's woods nearby. So I schedule to go and meet my mate facing Jinx, and we walk in the woods together. And we've run a record label together for a long time. And in the last year, he's doing it on his own, but we've gone to the woods and we've talked about what he's planning to put out. I've lined up some releases. But more importantly, we just talked about how we're doing, how we're feeling. You know, having a good chat with your mate for an hour while you walk around the woods is infinitely better than sending each other gifts on WhatsApp, you know. So making an effort to get outside and get out of your room and away from the screens is really important. I know I've said the word scheduling about 50 times, but I also schedule Zoom meetings with my mates, because I schedule Zoom meetings with my one-to-one students all week. And then when I've got a free block of time, if I know 4 days ahead that I'm going to talk to one of my mates, and we might actually meet on Zoom. Zoom's really useful in that you can obviously send each other links and stuff. So I might sit with one of my mates and just share tunes for a couple of hours over a Zoom call. And again, that's infinitely better for your mental health than just WhatsApp and texting or scrolling Facebook. So all of these things, like I'm saying, to schedule just means that you're being more conscious of how I spend my time, rather than just, because it's very easy. I said to Chris at the start when we were prepping for this, a year has passed and it feels like you've done nothing, but so much time has gone by. And if you take a bit more ownership of your time, you don't have to tread water and just, you know, do nothing because we're in this pandemic situation. You can actually taking more charge of your time will make you feel more positive, because you're in control of how you're choosing to live your life. Even though we have got huge restrictions on what we can do, within your own time, you can be, more conscious and more active of what you're doing, and you do feel a lot better for it. And one other point that I wanted to make as well, which relates to routine and lifestyle, and also your career or your studies for you guys, and something that's really important when people are working from home, you don't need to work all the time. I really had to understand that. I used to feel negative if I didn't get on the computer by a certain time of the day, but now I've realized that if I spend my morning a bit more slowly and I relax properly, when I get on the computer, I'm much more productive. So, you know, especially at the moment where we're all told we need to be in our houses all the time, and you're doing a music course, so you feel like you should be doing music all the time, but you don't need to work all the time. Personally, I find 2 or 3 good hours is a lot better than chaining myself to the desk for 8 slow, unproductive hours. Of course, sometimes when I'm writing music, the opposite happens, and I think it's going to be 2 hours and it turns into 8. That's a great thing. But trying to tell myself I needed to be at my computer doing emails at 10 o'clock in the morning because I had to wasn't making me feel good at all. If I get to the computer later, but I'm more relaxed, and then I'm more productive anyway. So don't feel like you need to spend all of your time working or you're going to fall behind or anything like that, because the reality is you need to think about how you use your time to make yourself feel good. And that's not just at the moment during a pandemic. What I'm realizing, that's just life in general. If you be conscious of how you spend your time and do things that make you feel good, that doesn't mean you have to be working every minute of every day. It's better to think about when you're going to work and put yourself in a position where you're able to do your work more effectively because you're relaxed and you're feeling good. on the topic of work, what I'm also doing, which is really helpful for me, is I keep all my work kind of visible so I can monitor progress. So my desktop at the moment is scattered with QuickTime players, because this is stuff I've been working on in the last month or so, and I keep it all in one place so that I can listen and decide if I want to work on it or not, rather than just loading the door aimlessly. Like, if I don't know what to do, I just won't work on it something for days, weeks, even months if it's not the right time. But also it helps me to remember what I have done. And likewise, I keep a Dropbox folder. So I'm just going to close my email browser so it doesn't start beeping. I keep a Dropbox folder where I dump everything in it, bounce everything I do. Every time I work on music, I bounce it and throw it in here. So this might look like loads and loads of stuff, but if you've read it carefully, a lot of them are doubles and triples of the same song. And often they're demos that I've done for 2 or 3 hours. But that's great. It means I've got something I could come back to and work on. And what I realized was, I'm really good at telling myself I've not done anything, I haven't done enough work, and loads of people are working harder than me. And then I look in this folder and I feel like, no, I've actually, I've been pretty productive this year. I've done quite a lot of music already. So having ways that you can positively monitor your progress is really helpful. And that feeds back into that last point of not feeling like you need to work all the time. Like, I've done a lot of work this year. I've got some exciting projects on the go. I don't need to get to the computer at 9 a.m. to bang out more tunes. I need to work on the stuff that makes me feel good, so when I write tunes, they flow better. So yeah, this is a really helpful thing for me. Even if you're just like, you've put together a few drum loops or something, bounce it out. You don't bounce only your finished songs. You just bounce what you're working on, and you can chart your progress as you go along as well. So that's all stuff that I've done in terms of routine and lifestyle that has been helpful for me. So I feel like now is a good moment to pause. If I haven't been keeping an eye on the chat at all. If anyone has any questions or comments at the moment, you're very welcome to share them. Anything that's working well for you, very welcome to share it, or any thoughts on any of those points. I'm just going to take a minute to have a drink.
So, so Naomi said, I'm definitely guilty of overworking. I think, yeah, we all are.
Yeah, man. Something that's come up in my conversations with friends and family is that everybody feels pressured to do more work than ever before at the moment. It's kind of like, because you're at home, you should just work all the time. And I mean, like, my missus, my mum, my friends who are working like normal jobs, they're working more hours than ever, because working from home has turned into living at work. And you need to sort of try and break that attitude in your mind that, you don't have to work every minute of every day. It's good to relax.
So Jordan just said, amazing tips so far. I think it's super important, all this stuff, and it's not being talked about enough. I just said big ups to you for being so open.
Oh, thank you. I feel like it's important to be open, because social media especially always presents the best side of everyone and everything they're doing. And I think for you guys, I hope it's helpful to see somebody who's working professionally in music, and on the outside it might look like things are going great, but it can be really difficult at the same time. So I'm happy to share all this stuff with you.
So Naomi said she gets anxiety whenever she's not working, worried that she'll get in a loop of slacking off, and even when she puts on a film, her mind starts to drift elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that as well. I'm not sure if this is the safest advice, but I put the films really loud. So it's sort of, I try and treat my living room like a cinema, and I probably drive my neighbours mad, to be honest. But I try and make myself zone into it. Also, though, really important for me, put your phone as far away from you as you can, so that your phone can't distract you, and gradually you sort of break that mental loop of feeling like you have to be connected all the time and doing something all the time. You can, if you're conscious, like, I want to slow down and I want to take a bit of time out, put your phone as far away as you can, put the film on, turn it up loud and watch it. And then you can always tell yourself that I'm going to work afterwards. I mean, I quite regularly do. I'll watch a film and then go back to my computer at midnight, because I'm a nocturnal sort of worker. But that break in the middle is so important, because otherwise I'd be mentally just exhausted.
It seems a lot of people here are saying as well, like, how difficult they're finding it making that separation between their home and where they work, and being able to separate their brain to kind of work on stuff and not get stuck in that mindset where they just feel like they're not being as productive as they should be.
Yeah, it's a real big worry, but what I can honestly tell you is nobody's being as productive as they should be, because we've somehow set the benchmark of should be to some ridiculous level. Because again, I somewhat feel social media is to blame for this, because when we first went into this lockdown, you have all these people like, oh, I'm going to learn French, I'm going to build a shed, or all sorts of like, and it became this sort of social pressure that you have to have like the best lockdown you can. Like that, to be honest, that's just bullshit. If you can make it through being locked in your house and 1,000 people dying every day, and you don't just get ill with anxiety and depression, you're doing fantastically. And if you just manage the situation and keep things moving forward at a steady pace, you're doing really well. So I obviously all this stuff is much easier said than done, and I'm still very guilty of putting too much pressure on myself. But just be aware of that. Be aware that everybody's struggling more than you might imagine, and the idea of needing to be super productive to sort of smash the lockdown is a bit of a silly idea that somehow has come out of sort of toxic social media culture, really showing everybody that you're having the best lockdown and all this sort of stuff is I think it's contributed to that. But really, you should just be trying to remember how to relax. Is just as important as having a productive lockdown. Of course, you're doing a degree and you need to get your work done. You don't want to not do your work, but I promise me you do better work when your brain is clearer. So and this is very much from my experience, I've had to work on being healthier in the same way I work on music and work on my career. And this is why I'm sharing all these points, because these are all things that I've had to make the conscious effort to work on my health, and it's definitely having a positive effect. So you can think of it that way, as you're working on getting healthier rather than, oh, I'm not working because I'm slacking off. And hopefully you gradually can make a bit of a change in your mindset about it.
Phil, what would you say to, so Jeremy has put that it's really hard when you wake up in a good mood and you want to be productive, but then you remember how unproductive the last weeks or months have been, and it ends up being another day, and you kind of, that good mood and that productivity is gone. Like, what kind of things do you suggest could help kind of break that cycle?
I'm gonna delve into this quite a lot of detail in terms of musical productivity tips, but as a general thing, just having small little things you want to work towards means that you might wake up feeling really good, and then you remember that you didn't get much done last week, but that doesn't matter, because today I'm gonna chop 5 breakbeats and bounce them down at jungle speed or whatever. So you have a little task that you're going to do, rather than, because the bigger scale of things can be really daunting. I mean, like, I've been trying to write my second album because my first one's come out and we've had a year pandemic, and I want to come back with a bigger project. And if I get up in the morning and think, right, today's an album day, that's terrifying. I like it, suddenly all these things start spinning around in my head, and I can deal with all the same problems as you're talking about, where you have a bad week where you don't get much done, and then you feel like every week's going to be like that. So what I've learned is just to break it into smaller things, and make one thing that I particularly want to work on is the thing that I'm going to do. And if I can work on that, then maybe I can move on to the next thing. So breaking it, this is sort of goal management as well, in a way. Like the way you get to a big goal is not just only working towards that big goal relentlessly, it's working out all the little small things that will get you there. So maybe if you've got an idea of what you're trying to achieve in general, break it down into smaller pieces. What are the little things I can do that will help me get towards my goal in music, whatever that might be, because we're all going to be on different paths of what we're trying to achieve. But it might be to make a patch on Serum or something to get yourself back into the sound design groove. And if you just say, oh, I'm going to spend 2 hours making a patch on Serum, then it's always productive. Whereas if you think to yourself, oh, I better hurry up and get my EP done, I didn't do anything last week, that is how it spirals negatively. So again, all this stuff is easier said than done, but breaking it into small little tasks and then deciding when you're going to do it. And then one thing I learned in CBT, which was really helpful, was I did this course called behavior activation, which is about basically changing your routine and your behavior in order to slowly force yourself to do more stuff and feel healthier. And part of that, one thing they say in that is stick to the plan, not how you feel. So if you've made a plan of what you're going to do, the days when you don't feel that great, you kind of force yourself to just spend an hour on serum and then you're going to stop, or whatever it might be. And then that means that you can sort of forget about what's happened before and you can just deal with what's happening on a daily basis. So make a plan and try and stick to it, and make the plan as small as you can so that you can achieve little bits step by step, and you gradually feel better about what you're doing and your productivity.
Amazing. Thanks, Phil. I think we're good to move on if you like.
Okay, cool. And yeah, any other further points, just keep all your stuff written down, all your questions, and we'll try and make some time at the end to speak. I mean, I don't need to strictly log off right at the end. We can have a bit of extra time for questions if we need to. Right, the next section that I want to talk about is it's called career and future. Two things which I quite honestly have worried if I'm going to have either in future, but I'm feeling a lot more positive about it generally now. Yeah, and so again, just to remind you of the context in which I'm speaking on this, I haven't DJ'd anywhere other. I've done a few social distance gigs, which I'm really grateful for. In fact, a really good promoter in London called Engage Audio, running these wicked social distance parties, and they were making me feel almost back to normal again for a few hours while I was there. But yeah, it's a really difficult time in that my career has just sort of stopped overnight, and it's tough it's such an uncertain time to be an artist, right? And I really feel for you guys studying music at uni at the moment when you haven't got that link of inspiration, you know, going out to see, especially when you're in Bristol, you've got such a fantastic scene. Having that disconnect must make it difficult for your motivation to be the same as it normally is. And my motivation has taken some big hits with all the touring that's all been cancelled, all the plans on hold. But so what I've had to do, I've had to change how I think about music and my goals somewhat. It doesn't mean losing sight of my goals. I'm not giving up on them either, but I'm not linking every studio session to targets, which is what you generally do professionally, right? If you're working towards something all the time, so your studio time is linked to that goal all the time. And what I've had to do is learn that I don't need to link every studio session to my targets in the same way. And that might come back to that last question, actually, that if you've had an unproductive week and you feel like you're getting behind on a big project, that can make you feel a lot more negative. Whereas if you think, well, today I'm going to break the cycle by playing with serum for an hour, and whatever happens, it doesn't matter, then you've taken away the idea of having to get a result from every studio session, which I am insanely guilty of. It's like before I left college teaching and went to be freelance and do private lessons, I used to have Monday off work from teaching at college, and I used to be like, I'm going to mix down 4 tunes today because I have to. And if I did 3 mix downs and they sounded fantastic, I wouldn't be happy because I hadn't done the 4th one. And that was something I had to really rethink of quite a few years ago, because I ended up getting ill with stress. But that sort of thinking of you have to get a result from every studio session is not necessarily healthy. Yeah, it's good to push forward and be motivated, but at the moment, the link in motivation is kind of broken for me. So my motivation is to enjoy this studio time. And I've had to really work on the enjoyment factor, because something that is easy to forget is that we, and I say we collectively, artists, musicians, you guys are all studying the same stuff I've studied and that I do. We're doing something we love. You know, nobody goes into a music degree because it's a stable, steady job and it's a pathway to riches. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you make it to sort of Andy C level, yes, you're going to earn a lot of money, but we don't do it because of that, right? You're doing something that you love, but it is hard to get better at it, and it is work, and then gradually it becomes more work than fun, until the point where it's all work and no fun. Whereas actually, if you remember back to when you first learnt what a DAW was, first time you played with a synthesizer or heard a breakbeat, that was like the most magical feeling ever. I mean, I still love that feeling. I'm still addicted to that feeling. I just lost it when I felt that every session had to be, a new tune had to be done. So what I'm going to talk about now, and then I'm going to demonstrate some of this stuff afterwards as well, some tips to keep yourself motivated and enjoying your musical life, because we are doing something that we love, and we're doing something that can create great joy in the moment of making it, and can create great joy in the people that listen to it as well. And you know, this is mildly off topic, but I always try and talk to my one-to-one students about remembering that it's supposed to be fun, even if it is difficult to get better at. And I've had to remind myself all of the things that are fun. So something that did very consciously that helped me a lot, I made a big effort to reconnect with my original influences and inspiration. So ask yourself this question, right? Why did you fall in love with music and want to become a producer or a DJ or an artist or an engineer? You know, why did you fall in love with music in the first place? And then whatever that answer is, go back and do that. You know, you didn't fall in love with music because you wanted to get a gig somewhere. I make music to facilitate me getting more gigs, but I started making music because I just loved it and was obsessed with it. So what I had to do was be more specific and really dial back into my influences. So I've broken it down into 3 lockdowns, which is not maybe strictly accurate because I'm doing all these things all the time, but there's definitely 3 different conscious areas that I looked at. And definitely in lockdown 1, it was classic liquid drum and bass on vinyl, showing my age a bit. But what I did was I set up my DJ room with my Technics again, which I hadn't had for ages. It's always been CDJs for the last 10 years. Set my Technics up again so I could play my old records. And I started buying records like, you're gonna now realize how old I am, but I was buying records from about 1999, 2000 onwards, right? So old man alert, probably buying records since before some of you were born, right? But when I was buying records, I was much closer to your guys' age, and I didn't have that much money, so there's loads of stuff I couldn't buy that I wanted to. So what I did during the first lockdown is I set myself up on Discogs and I started buying old records I wish I'd bought the first time around, and predominantly focused on liquid drum and bass. So I was buying loads of Caliber, Marcus Intellects, D-Bridge, Artificial Intelligence, High Contrast, Logistics, Hospital Records, early stuff, soaking up all the flavors that led me down this path. Because my name as an artist is Philth because I started out playing just really dark, hard drum and bass. But quite quickly, I branched out and fell in love with liquid and more musical, deeper drum and bass. So what I was doing was buying old tunes that I didn't have, playing my old records that were my old favourites that had been sitting in a dusty crate for many years. And then I was pulling some of these older influences into my music. I can directly, I can tell you stuff like starting the tunes with the drums, because people don't do that as much anymore because they make quite Spotify friendly intros in a lot of liquid drum and bass. You know, it starts with all the pads and the chords, and it can be quite hard to mix. I don't really care whether it's hard to mix or not, but I used to love the layers of breakbeats and the way that you'd lock 2 tunes in a mix. So I started making tunes with structure, a bit like the old classics. That was quite an expensive hobby or habit, and I've definitely slowed down the vinyl buying because yeah, it's a expensive habit, and really you don't need to do this with vinyl. You can do it with Spotify, you know, you can, but the point really was going back to the music that really influenced me when I was younger and reminding myself how much I love that music, and that even if no one ever asked me to DJ ever again the rest of my life, I would still love Marcus Intellect's music. It's not going to change just because I can't go out and play. So that was one of the things that helped me to reconnect. Part 2, I've listed it as lockdown 2, and I think it is kind of accurate actually, because when we went into a second period of lockdown, it became clear there wasn't going to be much of a summer. I started writing more ambient music because I lost a bit of the motivation to make rollers for the imaginary dance floors, and I started working on basically writing intros for tunes, but then never writing a tune, and then looping it, and then exploring what I could do in automation with a synthesizer. So it might be a serum patch that just changes for 5 minutes. It's really relaxing to make ambient music because you take away the drums, there's no rhythm to nod to, and so your brain slows down. Studio time becomes like meditation. And a friend of mine has actually done the same thing. He set up a new record label and he called it Meditape. So he's making music to meditate to, ambient music basically. And what I found was it's really fun. For me, it's really fun to explore chords, to learn a bit more about what I'm actually doing with my chords, because once you haven't got any drums, you really hear what the chords are doing. So it's improving my musicality. Having fun with pads, like as in synthesizing them, working out what I could do more with them. Having fun literally with reverb. I mean, I've bought some hardware that's great for this. I've got some pedals on my desk here, which are like reverb machines. I've got another one in my shopping list that I'm going to buy pretty soon. But yeah, what really helped was making music that doesn't have any impact at all. It doesn't have any real purpose, which is a real breaking an unhealthy string for me. All the music always had to have a purpose, right? And suddenly I was like, I'm just going to go in my studio, and it would help when I was feeling really anxious as well. I'm going to go in my studio and I'm going to find 2 chords that are calming, and then I'm going to loop them for about 2 hours while I play about with a few layers and synths. And after that, I really felt totally refreshed. So both for making it and then listening to it afterwards. So it was sort of cinematic music gone even further, because rather than trying to set the mood as I would do in maybe a drum and bass intro, it was more about just making something that was calming. And I found that really enjoyable. Yeah, I reconnected with my enjoyment of chords and emotion, and also with synthesis a bit more, because I wasn't worried about how loud things were. It was just like, what is it nice? Does it feel warm? I was able to learn a bit more as well while I was doing it, but that wasn't really the intention. I didn't think I'm going to learn to do better chords. I just thought I'm going to write some ambient music because it really calms me down. And then like many of these things, when you do it for a long time, it started to turn into something that could be real, partly because my best mate setting up an ambient music record label. I sent it to him and he loves it, but that definitely wasn't my goal. My goal was really to go in my studio and remember that I liked being in there, which comes back to what you guys were talking about earlier about losing motivation because you've had bad sluggish times. If you just go in your studio because you enjoy it rather than any other reason, it all works a lot better. The third thing I've done in reconnecting with my influences and inspiration is hip hop beats. Right, I love hip hop, and making it is really fun for me as well. So I'm talking again old man hip hop. Like, I grew up listening to hip hop in the 90s, so I'm looking at jazz and soul samples and break beats, and just basically connecting 2 of those things. You find the right sample and the right break, and you loop it, and you put maybe an 808 sub underneath, and then I might load a few synths and add a few little parts on top, whatever. But making it is just fun. There's no goal, there's no target, there's no expectation on what it could be. Does it make me nod my head a bit? Cool, that's it. That's all I care about. Mix down comparisons as well, because I live in a world of drum and bass where everything has to be louder than the next man. When I'm making old hip hop, I don't give a crap about that. I just, is it making me nod my head? And it meant just spending time making music because I love it. Like, there was one little bit of me that goes, oh, I could have done another drum and bass song in that time. And then I'd play the beat back and be like, no, I love this. This is making me really happy, Sitting in the garden, listening to some hip hop beats that I've made, drinking a cold beer. And I was like, this is totally worthwhile because I've enjoyed it and I feel really relaxed now as well. Of course, now because of where I am at in my career, I'm sending some of this music to my friends who are vocalists, like predominantly people that work in drum and bass with, singers that don't get a chance to write full songs, rappers that get asked to do a little cool chorus instead of writing a whole song because drum and bass wants it to be streamlined. But I'm not really working towards any particular target either. I'm taking it a bit more seriously, but it's just to spread the inspiration with my friends, really. Like, I messaged my mate Visionobi and said, oh, Rich, I've got a tune for you. And he was like, oh, yes, really excited. And I sent him a hip hop track with like a piano and a sax sample. And he said, oh, mate, I wasn't expecting this at all. Thank you. I love it. I'm just going to write a whole song instead of wandering in drum and bass where he fits in. So then I was able to spread the inspiration with my friends as well. So yeah, they're my things I've been doing to reconnect. So listening to classic liquid drum and bass, buying the records. I'm not suggesting you just go out and buy loads of records, but connect with the music you grew up loving. I was making ambient music to help me to relax, and I was making hip hop beats to remind myself to have fun in the studio. And those 3 things combined have meant that my relationship with this particular room is a lot better again, because I love being in here. But when I was coming in here feeling like I had to make drum and bass bangers when there wasn't even any raves to play them at, that was not very fun. So I broke that loop and I've reconnected with what I love. I think this is a good time for any of you guys to share any similar thoughts you have, stuff you've been doing similarly that might be helpful or anything like that. Chris, do we have any questions?
Waiting for people to come in. There was, Will has put making different genres really helps him with his creativity. And Joe has also been making house records for this exact reason. So yeah, it seems that a lot of people have been taking a leaf out of your book for this
Yeah,
one, Phil.
great. What I want to add to that, which is really helpful, is I could be guilty of thinking if I'm not making drum and bass, I'm wasting my time because I want to do drum and bass. I play D&B at my gigs, it's my career, right? But actually, it was the best possible use of my time. So, if all of you if any of you are stuck in a loop where you are trying to make bangers but struggling because it's a difficult time regardless, even if it's not in a pandemic, if you get stuck trying to write bangers all the time, do something completely different and enjoy it, and you definitely free up a lot of creativity in your mind.
Ben has asked, has making ambient tracks translated into making atmosphere in D&B tunes?
Definitely, yeah, because I had to find ways to make them even more floaty and more ambient, as in like make the if you're playing a pad and there's absolutely nothing else playing, it suddenly still sounds like it's right at the front of the mix somehow. So I had to like learn ways to make things sit back, create that sense of distance. With ambient music, you don't want it to feel like it's right up front and close. So it made me learn more about reverb and depth, which then I'm able to apply back into my music. And yeah, also the stuff with chords, I feel like I've learned some really interesting ways of layering up chords, like without overcomplicating the notes, if that makes sense. You don't need to play a chord with a ninth and a 13th, but you can layer it with different octaves. And yeah, there was a lot in terms of instrumentation that I learned because there's nothing else in the background. So you don't just put the pad underneath drum beats. The pad's the only thing. You have to put a bit more time into it. And yeah, it definitely fed back into my D&B work in the way that I create intros and pads and atmospheres. Yeah.
Jordan said he's been just going through loads of content on YouTube over the months, as well as Patreon, which he's found really helpful. He also says that separating sound design sessions from arranging and trying things that he wouldn't normally do and confining himself to just D&B and making music in other genres has been really helpful.
You've been reading my notes. Definitely going to come to that and talk about that in a minute as well. I've wholeheartedly agree to that point, sorry.
That's everything from the chat, Phil. So if you want to, feel free to move on.
So I made a really nice segue here as well, because I said I'm sending the music to my friends to give them some inspiration. And by far the most important thing for me over the last year to help me keep going with music is to connect with your mates or your peers in the scene or whatever, your classmates in your case. Keep each other motivated. And that can be as simple as tell your mate that you thought their new release that they put out or their new mix that's on SoundCloud was sick. Take a second to send that love, because people are, without the normal feedback that you're getting from audiences, a lot of people are doubting what they're doing at the moment, and having someone give you a bit of a positive big up can be really helpful, and it can start a cycle where you encourage each other more. Send people your beats to get them excited as well. Just share what you're doing with people, talk about what you're doing as well. If you're really struggling and someone else sends you a tune, you can say to them, oh, this is wicked, I really love it, how did you do that? Because I'm really stuck on whatever it is. So if someone's sending you tunes and you're not doing any, that doesn't mean you should feel negative and think, oh, I'm not doing anything. You should think, oh, great, I can learn from this person, they can tell me something that they're doing. So that sort of stuff is what you would naturally do on a university course, but because you've all been in the house for so long, I think that there's a danger of that getting broken and you get lost in your own little bubble, So talk to your friends, send people YouTube links, SoundCloud links. We were just saying about reconnecting with older music. Send it to other people, The worst thing that can happen is they're just a bit busy and they don't listen to it. No one's ever going to be like, oh, he's an idiot. He keeps sending me links to mixes. If you don't want to listen, you don't want to listen. But sharing stuff you're excited about with other people can really, really help. Pass around some sample packs between each other, I mean, strictly speaking, you shouldn't be doing that, but share some resources with each other. Like, help each other out in any way that you can. And most importantly for me as well is start some collabs, right? So I've always been a big fan of collaborating because you learn a lot from the other person, right? And when you're doing it together in the same room, that's the time when you can vibe the most, obviously. But for me at the moment, I've been really struggling to write darker or harder D&B tunes without the DJ gigs. It's like as I said, the link is a bit broken. So I was finding it really hard to, in particular, just to write bass lines and drops. It just wasn't really flowing very well. So I'm working with lots of my mates, and what's kind of happening is people are like, providing me with baseline sketches. Basically, like someone might write a really short intro drop idea and they give it to me, and I'm like, brilliant, I can hear 5 minute tune in that. So then I could work on the vibes and the intro and the arrangement, and then you're keeping yourself motivated as well, because you know that other person's waiting on you, but not in a negative like, oh, I need to hurry up way. It's more like, oh, that person's excited to hear what I'm going to do. What I do is valid. It's hard without any connection with people. It can feel like you're doing it for no reason. So working on collaborations with loads of my friends has helped me a lot. And you should just try and get that kind of get stuff going on with some of your mates on your course, or just your mates in general that are into music. If you're writing something and you get stuck, ask your mate to write a bass line. That's literally what I'm doing. And then when they write a bass line, suddenly I'm like, amazing, now I know what to do. Send it back and I'll do the arrangement, or I'll do the mix down. So that collaborating, and also it means that you're just talking to people a bit more as well, like you send your mate a little text saying, oh, I've written an intro for you, and they're excited and you're excited and you're getting positivity again. So it's not so much about for me, collaborations are never about the name of the other person. I think that's very important to say, because it's not about, I'm not like, oh, I'm going to collaborate with Spy because he's sick. It's more like I'm going to collaborate with my mates because they excite me with what they do with music, and hopefully I excite them, and that excitement will build up and you create motivation. And so the biggest collaboration project I do is I'm a part of a duo called Philosophy with another Phil Tangent. So the two Phils together, we've done music for Integral Records and remix for Metalheads, a track on Deggs' album for Hospital. So we've got some nice things that have been rolling, but we both were hitting the wall last year. And now what we're doing is just sending each other the stuff to collaborate really quickly, like 1 or 2 sessions, pass it on, just keep them going around in a circle. And that's really built this feedback loop where we both feel really positive. We're helping each other stay motivated. Since January, we've written loads of tunes. Like, they just seem to be flying out because we're talking all the time. Earlier I was saying, talk to your friends, don't WhatsApp them. But of course, send messages as well, talk to people. I talk to Phil every day, basically. And some of it's about tunes. Other times we just talk about any old stuff, When we were both had bad anxiety, we were talking about that, and it feels good to get it out a bit, And we both like beer, so we might we'll send each other a picture of a beer and write a review of it, little trivial silly things. But our musical connection is connecting us more as friends, and then that constant interaction is helping us the music to flow better. So call on other people. If you're feeling inspired, try and share that with other people. If you're a bit stuck for inspiration, there's no harm in saying that to your mates. I'm really stuck at the moment. What are you doing? Show me something exciting. Have you heard any good sample packs? All of this. Talk to people about music, and then try and do some collaborative projects where it might make you step outside of the box a little bit as well. But equally, it keeps you active when you might have been a bit stuck for inspiration. Often something someone else sends me excites me, and I'll say to them, oh, this is great. I can imagine what I'd do next. Would you be up for me doing a session on it? And, you don't want to be like shouting at strangers, oh, collab, bro. Do you want to collab? It's more about you and your friends and creating a network of people that are working together. And then it doesn't really matter about the goal. The goal is just to have fun with the other person or group of people, And so now what I've got is through some of my closest mates, another one, Reckless, we just did an EP on Dispatch recently. We always collab together, but we can't. So he sent me loads of stems for different songs. So I've got like about 4 or 5 sets of stems from him that are ready to be worked on. So just to be clear, stems are where you've bounced all the parts to a song, right? So I've got the kick, the snare, the hi-hats, whatever, all separate. So I've got stems for 3 or 4 songs waiting to go with one producer on a dark vibe, and I've got 2 or 3 at least from Phil on a liquid tip. So whenever I feel like writing and I'm a bit stuck for ideas, I've got other people's ideas to work with, and this has helped us in the long term as well. You grow together. So yeah, connect and collaborate with your friends. It's not just about collaborating, it's just about sharing that motivation and excitement and helping each other when you're not feeling good. You talk to your mates and you share things that might make other people excited, and it can gradually, it can all feed into each other basically. Another point, I think I've already talked about this, but I really want to stress it. Treat your studio time as fun rather than work, and the music will flow more freely and you will get more work done, which is what always happens to me. But when you take away the goals or targets or comparisons that hold us back, this doesn't just apply right now in a pandemic. This is just like life advice. Try not to compare your music to what everyone else is doing, because then you'll always be disappointed, right? You can never make it sound quite as good as that person, because it will sound like an imitation. But then it also means every time you go in the studio, your goal is to make a better snare than whoever you think does good snares. You know, that's not a very fun way to spend your time, is it? To basically negatively compare yourself for your hobby is a really weird thing to do, but we all do it all the time. So music flows more freely if you take away the goals, targets, and comparisons. It's easier said than done, right? Which is why I'm writing hip hop and just getting lost in a little loop. I'm not worrying if it's going to go off in a rave. Are people going to shout to reload it? I'm just, does it make me nod? Excellent, it's working. And then along the way, I've learned loads of new techniques, which are coming back into my drum and bass music as well. So taking time out to remember your studio is fun is probably the single most important thing I can tell you today. On that tip, yeah, I'm gonna touch on it now. I was gonna come to it a bit later, but yeah, building sounds separately is really helpful and also helps you to get out of the goal, target, result sort of cycle. If you just, I'm gonna go through my sample library and I'm gonna find some drum loops that I like and I'm gonna put them in my DAW and I'm gonna do a bit of processing and change the pattern. I'm gonna do that in the morning and then I'm done for the day. You know, you take away a lot of the pressure by just enjoying it. So something else that's really helpful for me is to keep things fresh in the studio, right? So look for inspiration by adding new things or new ideas into your setup. So that doesn't have to mean spending money, although of course it might well involve spending money, but it doesn't mean it has to. You can search for free plugins. There are plenty of resources where you'll find free plugins. I think if you go on places like Music Radar, Computer Music, you can always search for latest free plugin downloads. You know, there's always resources. And same with samples, but also you can just search for samples in the wider world of music outside your genre. You know, samples from classical music, put it through distortion and reverb, and you've got a weird sound that you wouldn't have made in Serum, right? Looking for inspiration with new places, and I've got a big list of things that I have been doing that have been inspiring me. I'm going to talk through them briefly, and I'm going to show you some of this stuff as well. So this is my list of what I've been doing to keep it fresh in the studio, right? First and the biggest one probably is Splice. I got myself a Splice account, and for any of you that don't know, Splice is like online sample library. Basically, you pay a subscription and you get a certain amount of credits every month, and you can spend the credits to download samples from anywhere, right? So it takes away the idea of spending £20 on a sample pack. You're spending, I think, the minimum £7 or £8 a month, and then you get I can't remember, 100 credits maybe. I know I upgraded mine because I got really addicted very quickly, but yeah, I got myself onto Splice, and it's something that I knew was there for ages, but it was only in the last 6 months I've started using it, if that, maybe even 4 or 5, whatever. Yeah, I only recently got into Splice, and I love finding new sounds from packs that are not dance music. I'm not looking for like D&B snares pack. I'm looking for melodies. I'm looking for chords. I'm looking for textures. I'm specifically often looking for guitars. I've discovered I really love guitars, but not in a strummed way. Like lead guitars are what I'm really into. Yeah, so I'm stepping away from dance music. I'm mostly looking at like hip hop, soul, R&B type packs, lo-fi hip hop, because I want melodies and I want chords basically. So I'm using Splice to find new sounds all the time, keeping me excited. On a similar tip, I'm looking at new plugins, fun plugins, right? And I'm gonna to show you some of these, but one in particular, which if you browse music production websites, right, then your social media, probably you get some adverts for plugins, I'm sure, at some point, right? Well, there's one that's bloody everywhere. The Drip plugin is like the most relentless social media advertising I've ever seen, and I was really like snobby about it. I was like, I don't want a plugin that does everything in 2 seconds for me. I know how to do all this stuff. And then I thought I'm being an idiot, because what I want is to make sounds change very quickly. So I bought the Drip plugin, really into it, just flip sounds on their heads really quickly. I got some more reverb plugins. Endless Smile is a good one for massive amounts of reverb. EOS is another one. Some plugins that just mess up sounds. So I wanted to get fun plugins. We associate plugins in electronic music with making things sound better, right? Oh, this makes it louder, this makes it tighter, whatever. But they're not fun, you know. Transients of snares are not fun. They're not something you look at, wake up in the morning and think, oh, 20 millisecond transients, I can't wait. So what I was doing was and I'm constantly doing now, is enjoying messing with sounds with plugins, seeing what I can do. And in order to do that, I had to buy a few new plugins, freshen up my palette. A second part of this, which I'm going to show you how to do in Logic, is I reorganized all my plugins and samples, because you will find things you forgot you had. You go through all your plugins and you go, oh, wow, I haven't used that for 3 years. I'm going to put it back into my rotation, right? Likewise with samples. I've been collecting samples for 15, 20 years, right? Every now and then I find something that I intended to make a tune out of 10 years ago that would be a great hook. And it's buried in like sample folder 6 layer. Going through your samples, sorting them out. It can also break that loop of I'm not being productive, right? You're not making music, but you're doing stuff that's going to help you make music. Organize your samples and you'll find loads of inspiration. You might find that halfway through organizing your samples, you're so excited about a particular thing you found that you dive in and make music. Jackpot, you know, the system worked. And then you can go back to organizing your samples again tomorrow. On the list tip of samples, buy new samples as well. I buy new sample packs much more than I used to, because it's so easy to be quite honest, it's so easy to find sample packs for free download, right? Illegal downloads and stuff. Everybody's got more sample packs than they really need, you know. And what I realized was that any sample pack that someone gave me, or that I found on a download site or whatever, you never look into it properly. You just sort of go and pick 1 or 2 sounds. Whereas now I was like, right, I need to find samples that are exciting for me, rather than just, you know, having this giant library of crap. So I started buying sample packs for piano and Rhodes and keyboards, electric pianos basically, to use in either liquid or hip hop tunes. And that I found loads of exciting new Rhodes samples, and I made some new tunes immediately. Like there's one tune where it's just 4 of them in a line, and it made a chord progression, and then I put a beat in, and I was like, right, this is great. I'm really happy about this. That tune wouldn't have existed if I hadn't gone and searched for some electric piano samples. And also in drum and bass anyway, and I'm sure it's the same in every other electronic genre, now more than ever you can find samples by your favorite artists, because they're not working out in the clubs. So in drum and bass recently, I've bought sample packs by Comics, by Spy, by Amos, and by Annex. So that covers a real cross-section of drum and bass as well, from the minimal techie right up to sort of banging loud jump up stuff. Comics did a sample pack that is literally just think breaks, which is, if you like jungle, the best resource you could ever possibly have, right? 100 and something edits of 1 breakbeat. It's just jungle paradise, right? And all these samples are making me excited. Like they've all got their own real strengths, and I know that I can draw upon them to help me write music more quickly. So on that tip, and a little shameless plug, I've started to work on a sample pack. I've got it up on the screen at the moment, but I'm gonna show you how it's helping me, regardless of whether it's selling it as a sample pack or not anyway. But yeah, there's sample packs from a lot of artists, and I'm getting involved in the same way as well. You can find inspiring sounds by the people that inspire you. So go and look for those resources, and it's often nowhere near as much as you'd think anyway. Like I'm planning to sell my sample pack for £10, and I'm also thinking about doing something where I offer a discount to students and places I'm connected with. But I'll come back. I'll funnel that information for your teachers if it's something I definitely choose to do. Sort of a student discount on a sample pack to help you guys out. But yeah, it doesn't cost a lot of money, and you've got immediate inspiration and materials to work with. On a similar tip, although it is more expensive, buying equipment if you can afford it. I know that it's not a good time to be throwing your money away right now, but I do genuinely throw my money away, and I've written this in complete seriousness, right? You're better off spending your money on equipment than you are on pizza. And that was me talking to myself rather than you guys. I'm not accusing you of being pizza junkies, but I literally, when I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to get another takeaway, I'm like, no, I'm going to save the money and I'm going to buy some samples, or I'm going to put it towards equipment, right? And buying, obviously it is a lot of money if you're starting to buy an analog equipment, but it could mean new plugins, you know, buy that new plugin that you've been thinking about. Or some of the equipment I've got is really quite cheap. I've got guitar pedals that are like 50, 60 quid, but they make things sound cool when you run it through them. And again, it's just about making it fresh, basically. And my final tip for keeping things fresh in the studio is stop trying to write a song every time you sit down at the computer. Put time aside for making drums, making bass, exploring your synths and finding cool presets, exploring your synths and making pads or making stacks or racks. Inspiration will come when you have loads of exciting sounds at your fingertips, right? If you want to stop to make the sounds every single time, that breaks inspiration anyway. But more importantly, it means you can... Remember I talked earlier about planning your work time? Well, you could say that on Monday, I'm just going to make some pads in Serum. And on Tuesday, I'm going to make some basses on Serum or whatever synth you've got. On Wednesday, I'm going to go and buy a new sample pack and I'm going to find some beats. And on Thursday, I'm going to go on Splice and I'm going to look for hooks. And then on Friday, you take the hook you found on Splice, you layer it with the pad you made on Monday, you layer it with the break you made on Wednesday, and then your bass from Tuesday. And Friday might be a really productive day, but it didn't happen in isolation. It's all steady progress, and that helps with that idea of feeling like you're progressing steadily rather than massively. Progress isn't like you make one tune and suddenly everything's brilliant, or you make an album and then your life changes. Progress is just constantly getting better at what you do. So if you stop trying to write a song every time you're in the studio, you get better at all the other little things as well, and you also enjoy doing all the other little things more. Like, I enjoy chopping up beats a lot more when I'm not trying to get on with a song. I enjoy making pads a lot more when I'm not trying to get on with a song. So yeah, stop trying to write a song every time you sit down, basically, and then you'll find that you actually can write more songs more quickly because you've got all your bits ready anyway. So yeah, those are my my tips for your career or music time. So if you've got any comments, questions, anything on that tip, let's do that before I get on to some stuff in Logic.
So Will asked on the subject of sample packs, like, what are your thoughts on artistic integrity in that area? Because he's always felt a bit scared about using samples.
I'm got a big smile on my face because I do not care in the slightest, right? The samples are there to be used, right? If you use a melody from someone else's sample pack, the only problem is that anybody else can use the same melody and they might recognize it, right? But I really like to break this myth that you need to make everything yourself all of the time. There's a really silly meme that covers this very well, though. It's a guy who was like, I was using samples, but I realized that was cheating. So I decided I had to use real drums, but then it was someone else had made the drums, so that was cheating. So I didn't realize I had to make my own drums. So I realized I needed goat skins. So now I'm too busy farming the goats to make any music, right? And it's like a stupid story, but if the materials are there, you should use them. You don't need to build your own drum kits and your own sounds every single time. So if you use a melody from a sample pack, maybe twist it up with plugins so it's not quite so as it was, mostly so that you don't find your melody in someone else's tune, right? But don't worry at all about that idea of using samples and it being a bad thing, because that's why they're out there, right? I mean, like the Spy pack in particular, they're just really well-rounded made drums, and often I find that I think my drums sound pretty good, and then I put a Spy loop underneath and then my drums sound really good, and that's a positive, you know? I don't care at all that Spy's kick has filled up my mix down. Yeah, I could probably go on Serum and work out where the space was and synthesize it, and 2 hours later the Spy kick probably sounded better anyway. So don't worry about that idea of using sample packs is bad. That's I think that's a negative myth that I find that not meaning to be negative towards you guys because you're younger than me, but it seems to, I see it more in younger producers talking online. I see people in sort of Facebook groups and stuff being like, oh my God, I can't believe you used someone else's sound and stuff like that. Whereas us old guys are like, I just made 2 tunes today while you were arguing on Facebook by using other people's sounds. So don't worry about it at all, is my answer, basically. The samples are there to inspire you.
Nice one, man. This question is one that I missed from a bit earlier, but it still kind of ties in, especially when you were talking about don't go in with the idea of just making a song, break it up into like digestible sections. Jeremy asked, like, how do you deal with frustration? He says when he tries to force himself to spend like an hour on Serum, he's just incapable of focusing or being productive, and then he feels like he's losing his time, and that just ends up frustrating him further?
Break it into like what is it you actually want to do? Because what I mean is like, are you aiming to make pads? Are you aiming to make bass? Have you got a specific goal? And then even within that, maybe trying to learn something new, or to try out something new that you have learned. It might be to do with something to do with bending a waveform is something I do quite a lot now, whatever. But having more than a specific, it's sort of having a target for what it is you're trying to do, and then hopefully it's less frustrating because you're working towards something in particular. Like, I agree, if you just sit down with blank serum, that's no more helpful than sitting down with a blank page or anything else, or a blank canvas as an artist. But if you say, right, I want to make some pads, and I'm going to work towards making pads, then you've got more of a goal that you're working towards. And if you find that you're struggling to do it, then maybe you watch a tutorial and you teach yourself something new about specifically making pads, and then you won't feel like you're wasting time. You'll feel like, I just got better at, or I got a better understanding of serum than I had an hour ago, and it feels more positive. So set yourself sort of more specific targets of what it is you want to do. And also, when you're doing those kind of sessions, save lots of stuff. Don't wait until it's brilliant before you save it. I always say this to my one-to-one students, right? When you're making bass, don't keep going until it's the best bass you've ever made, because you've probably done 5 or 10 really good ones at various sort of checkpoints along the way. So save more patches than you maybe need. And then the next day you won't feel negative about it because you've made 5 new patches. You know, you might come back to them the next day and not 100% like them all, but that doesn't matter. You've got 5 new starting points from the day before. So yeah, set yourself goals and also save lots of stuff along the way. So it's much better to have too many presets and you have to go through and find your favorites than not having any and feeling like you didn't achieve anything. So you can chart your progress by saving your presets as you go along.
Right on. Thanks, Phil. That's everything from the chat. So if you want to dive into Logic,
okay, cool. So I've got Logic up here, and I've got a little demo that I started the other day and then decided to not do anything so I could show you guys, right? So I'm just going to talk through some of the things that this is my list of points again, but in a way that I can demonstrate. So first up is Splice, right? I don't think I'm going to actually browse Splice right now, although I could load the app, in fact, actually. But I wanted to talk to you about how it came about, because I was searching for samples for a dark tune, browsing. In fact, I will just load Splice on the browser very quickly, because I just want to talk to you quickly about how I use it. So I'm just logging in. I've got my second screen. I'm just logging into Splice at the same time. So I basically like pack hop or channel hop like you would on YouTube when it tells you one thing and then you watch another one. So I've got loads of likes, different packs that I've found good sounds in. As soon as I like one sound, I just like the pack, so I might come back to it. But what I prefer to do is go from one pack to the next, sort of in from session to session. Like I load the pack I was in last time, although this Scott Storch one, I haven't actually looked at it properly yet, but principle is still the same. I'll find something that I like. I'm not sure I'm gonna, if I search by key. So what's the tune actually? Might as well just see if there's anything useful. The track is in E flat minor, so I'll search the pack. I'm searching for sounds that are in the key. I don't care where they come from or what they are. I'm not thinking I've got an idea in my head of what I'm trying to find. Most of the time I'm more like, what has he got for me in E flat minor that might be useful? So yeah, mostly the point is not necessarily me finding anything right now, but I found some stuff in Splice when I was looking for something completely different. Actually, I was looking for dark stuff and I found nice stuff, and it's not what really I'm looking for though. Oh, just an 808. But the point more than anything is I'm never looking in drum and bass packs. I've no idea who does drum and bass samples on Splice. I look at drum and bass samples from the producers that I love that are making best quality stuff. I don't browse Splice for drum and bass stuff though, because then you're really going to be recycling what everyone else is using. I use Splice for melodies mostly. So right, so I found a few different things in various sample packs. Where's my Logic gone? There we go. I found a few different things from various sample packs that are all in the same key. So I downloaded them all into my Splice account while I was working on the darker tune. So I just had them, yeah, I was looking like sea creature moan, howl. I was basically making a really dark, horrible tune. And then something I heard just made me be like, no, that's lovely. I really want that. I think it was his piano. Yeah, so totally not dark at all. It inspired me. And then I found something else in the same pack. And then I moved on to another pack. There's some stuff here I haven't used yet, actually, that might come into it. Not that one. Yeah, that was great. That's what I wanted to add into it. So, but yeah, basically pack hopping to just discover stuff in a key. I don't, oh, that wasn't the same one, sorry. I don't care where they come from, and I don't want necessarily drum and bass sounds at all. I want music and melodies. So I've got, then what I want to do is show you what I've done with them. So the piano chords at the moment, they're as they are. A little bit of reverb. This reverb little plate is by Sound Toys. I really recommend their plugins in general because they're just fun. But I'm not doing much of it. It's just a little bit of reverb. Then what I've done is layered. So I've got some other stuff layered over the top of it. And this is where I started to incorporate some plugins. Right, so I think this is quite floaty anyway, right? But this reverb EOS, I learned about it when I went to work with my friend. He loaded EOS and it just turns everything into a washy pad, basically. I'm not sure how loud that is. I hope it's not clipping. I'm going to turn it up a little bit to make sure you can hear it properly. Right, so all the notes are lost, right? There's no longer any definition from one note to another. I've got a bit of EQ cut in the bottom as well, so it's not cloudy. But yeah, EOS just turns it into turns anything into a pad, which is I love basically. So I'm going to show you EOS again, really how effective it is on something more obvious. But so I've got this EOS reverb that I've been using loads. It just makes everything float, and that's what I like. So that comes back to the question about what I learned when I was making ambient music, and it was about reverbs and stuff. And EOS has become a really big part of what I do. Then I've got some. Then I took these chords and play them to you as they were. So again, I was pack hopping. I found these chords. And the lines where I've time stretched it, so it's flexed into time. Then I bounced it down. And I reversed it in 2-bar blocks. Or 4-bar blocks, sorry. So I've reversed each part of the chord progression. Because the piano lives at the start. So if I play them together, there's more space if I reverse it, right? So there's a piano there. So it works better backwards anyway. They're in key because I found them by browsing by key in Splice, which is really helpful. Then I've added the drip. I didn't want it in the first 16 bars. I brought it in here. So yeah, this is almost making me just laugh at myself because this plugin is so ridiculous when they do the adverts for it. It's like, hey, bro, do you know nothing? Do you want to make things cool? But it really just is great for having fun. So there's these chords backwards. The lo-fi preset makes it really swirly. You've got different ways you can customize it within the presets, which are, even they've got cool names. Heat, I think, is saturation. Depth, I think, is reverb. Spice, who knows what the spice is. But I'm not here to teach you what drip is and how it works. It's more that this plugin very quickly makes things sound different, and that's what I wanted. This one makes it really thin with a delay. So it just means that I can take, very quickly make something different and have fun with it. The most important thing is the fun factor, regardless of whether it's drip or any other plugin. It's just fun. Then I've got a delay as well. So now I've got something completely different to what it was a minute ago. It's just turned it on its head. Right, that has become this. If I was to put EOS on it, it would just disappear into one pad. And what I'm going to do is bounce that with, shouldn't see EOS, with the EOS on it, because, oh, wait a minute. I've just bounced it about the plugins. Just a second, sorry. I'm going to export it. In fact, I'm just going to bounce it like this. So I'm going to export it as a WAV. So it's chintzy EOS. So this is resampling, right? And this is something I do loads. And again, it's all about having fun with stuff. So I don't just want that sort of lo-fi melodic thing as it was. I want to break it, have fun with it. I've used the drip and the tape delay and EOS, so it's just become a complete blur. Now what I'm going to do is go and find that thing I just bounced, and that's what that looks like with all the reverb on it. So now, oh shit, no, I definitely want that. I'm going to find like a good volume point, a good point to start with where the volume kicks in a bit more, and then I'm going to stretch that. So what we've got now is this is coming to my points of, remember, I'm trying to show you how I keep it fresh and fun in the studio. So I've found a sample off Splice. I've reversed it. I've run it through the drip plugin and a reverb and a delay. And now I'm stretching it and making it into a sort of reverse pad. Right, the slicing mode is not the one. Polyphonic, so it carries on for longer. And to answer the question about sample packs earlier, you can make anything very different anyway. You know, it's all about the inspiration. Finding inspiration is more important than being a martyr to sound design. So if this inspires you to write a tune, it's great. And now I've made it something weird and different anyway. Another thing I really like at the moment. Oh, and actually though, so now I talked about having fun plugins. Well, I've also organized my plugins differently. So Faves is my favorite plugins that I use all the time, so I can get to them quickly. That's from any plugin manufacturer, right? And I'll just show you quickly how you can do that. In Logic, there's a preference called the plugin manager. And you can then make your own folders. So if I was to make one and call it DBS, I could then chuck it up the top. So I've now got a folder for today's talk, and I could go through and find audio damage EOS. If you know, that one goes there. Camel Fat, greatest plugin in the history of plugins, that goes there. Endless Smile, Sausage Fattener, 2 fun plugins. Right now, when I closed my plugin manager, it has to reload my audio device. So we've got just a little awkward gap. But the idea is that you explore and understand your plugins and then organize them. So there we go, DBS. There's a folder of stuff. But what I've actually done in my favorites is a little bit bloated, to be honest. It's just a little bit bigger than I'd really like, but they're my favorite plugins that I use all the time. So my favorite EQ, Camel Fat, so on. New toys, that's where I put the fun stuff. Doesn't necessarily mean they're new either. It can just be like, I remembered I've got this plugin and I want to use it. So then I've got, bass plugins, all my distortion and stuff, compressors from every manufacturer, EQs, so on. And doing this really helped me to remember what plugins I have and helps me to work a bit quicker as well. It's like little things like this are what you can do on a bad day as well. You know, if you're really not inspired and you're sitting looking at Serum and it's just making you cross because you can't think of anything, then get out of it and organize your plugins. Look through, find stuff you didn't remember you had. So if I load Crystallizer, this just makes everything sparkle. There's a nice preset, long oct crystals, right? So that's not got an extra top. Now if I use EOS on this, it will just become a wash. Right, that's the start of the tune, right? Because it's coming from the root chord. So if I pack that into a folder, it makes it easier to manage. And I might filter it as well. Filter it before EOS will be interesting because then the crystals are always happening, but we'll cut them off. I've got a low pass filter. Just gonna gradually drag some stuff up, right? But I'm not gonna make the whole tune because we're running out of time, and I just want to show you some ideas. But there, I've got an intro vibe. I've got an ambient pad. And the how I did it is not as important as the sort of having all the tools set up in a way that you can get to them and your inspiration is close. I think that sounds really loud. So that crystal pad is sounding amazing. Like it's evolving and it's floating, and it came from having some fun plugins to play with, finding an exciting sound within Splice, and having my plugins at hand so I can mess with it quickly. So that's the sort of points I wanted to demonstrate really, and the reorganization really helps with that. New sample packs. So I've got various artist packs that I've bought recently. I started to organize my samples a bit differently as well. My sample library is really organized. Again, all this stuff is things you can do when you're not feeling inspired. It all helps. So I've got loads of acapellas. Archive is older stuff, so on and so on. Breaks is mostly things I've made. But if I go in my new sample packs, I can pro packs of all the artist packs that I've got. Yeah, let's load Spy for today. See what's in his pack. Just a nice think break, right? But it's a really nice think break. I definitely don't work for Spy, but his pack is amazing. Particularly that he's got run it all through this analog hardware that he's bought, and it's just really well produced. Like if I could make drums sound as good as Spy, I would. But I love what he does with his sound, so I'm quite happily using them. I'm not in any way feeling like I'm inferior. You know, I'm only joking when I say I wish I could make drums like this, but I love what he's doing. There's no benefit to me being like I can't use these because they're Spies. That's not Spies anyway. That's this is a think break, which is Lynn Collins' song with James Brown doing little weird vocal noises in the middle. Spy didn't make this anyway. It's just a great break. So I chopped this up into the parts. Okay, I'm not focusing on exactly what I'm doing in Logic because it's not a Logic class as such, right? But I'm using just shortcuts to chop it. To be honest, I don't even want to chop it, but I could make it into a different pattern. No, that's not what I want to do. I want to put that bar fourth and make it into a jungle pattern. Just out of principle, really, because I quite like it as it is, actually. But I might just use the snare less. He's got 2 snares in the break. I might just use this one less often. I mean, to be honest, I just wanted a think break. I don't really need to do anything. Right, just gonna make sure none of that's overlapping. I'll put some fades in there just to make sure. Fades, make sure you don't have any clicks and pops in the overlap. Then I'll just glue it all together, and I've got just a nice think break, right? Might draw into Amos's packs, but what I also do is I go through the packs and I remake them myself. So if I go and bounce breaks, I've got an Amos break that I've chopped up. So that's more of a modern break, right? That might be better with the think. So I've spent some time to re-chop and layer it as a 16 bar thing. So I've got Amos's break, right? Amos break. Spy break's quite big and full, so I might make it a bit thinner with some EQ, whatever. But again, the techniques in particular are not that important. I'm not here to teach you about EQ today. Just that big spike up there is the tambourine in the think. So I'm going to leave it and just turn the think down a little bit and just let it be really bright underneath, basically. Oh, that's going to a bus. That's why that's quiet. Right, so I've got a couple of samples from some pro packs. There's more I could go through in them, but what I've also been doing is, yeah, as I said, I'm collating them into my own way, but I've also now I'm making my own sample pack, which is just stuff that I want that's ready to go. So again, instead of trying to make tunes every day, I mean, I'm now doing this a bit more formally, but I do stuff like this all the time. So I've got some claps. I like that one with the reverse, so I'm going to use that one. All these are going out to a bus. I probably would bus them together anyway, ultimately, but that's not what we're here for right now either. Within this pack, I've made hi-hat loops, really simple stuff, but they're just useful. So building this is, again, giving me inspiration because it's stuff that I can use. That's not right for this pack, for this break. That's better, just a simple, nice simple hi-hat on top. I'm making tops loops as well that are like multi-layers. That one's going to be good to come in later. We're not going to write the tune, but you know what I mean. That'll come in later on to pick up the energy. That equally could do the same thing. Oh, that's just got a really nice click. So I'm going to use that immediately along with the clap. So yeah, this is stuff I've built from other sample packs. I think the click I actually recorded myself, but I genuinely don't care about that. It's not. So I've got some tops and a clap. Now I've got some, you know, rolling liquid drum and bass drums very quickly because I'm using good quality samples that Spy and Amos, two really good producers in there, and then stuff I've made myself that is ready to go. So I've got a drum loop within a couple of minutes, right? And the point of that really is just to show you like what prep can do for you, both by having some new samples that are exciting. Like the Spy break is just a really nice think, and then the Amos is a really nice clean break that I've already edited myself, and then making some yourself as well. So very quickly I can put together some drums, right? The next point on my list was about buying equipment. I can't really demo any of this stuff to you right now, but I've got two examples I might use. Is I've got an analog heat, which is like a distortion and filtering unit. That's maybe not as suited to this tune, but I might run the drums through it to give them a little bit more thickness and crunch, and then bounce them down as one. And then you bounce it down as one and you stop messing about with it as well. Because if I bounce all of that to one audio file, I can't go back and obsessively EQ it for the next 3 months, which is what people love to do in drum and bass and dance music. You know, mix it down 27 times when what you actually need to do is move beyond the first 8 bars. I mean, that's like a real problem that people do a lot of the time. I've got some pedals that I might run the pianos through it and do something. The resampling I do it with hardware as well. But yeah, the other thing I was gonna show you that might be useful is I forgot to mention this earlier when I was doing when I've been writing hip hop projects, I learned some new techniques where so what I'm gonna do is export this yeah, just whatever, piano, bounce it down and then chop it up. Yeah, so what I was doing was using my MIDI keyboard has 16 pads on the top of it, and I never really use them because I'm not really much of a finger drummer. You know, I don't tend to play things in when I'm doing drums anyway. I've never been sort of playing beats in by hand. It's just not really how I work. So it was just like going to waste basically. So what I realized is that I can use it as a sampler, and then it is really handy. So I didn't mean to cut that there. So I've sliced this up into bits. So this is and again, this factors in also to making samples your own as well. But I keep saying, I genuinely don't really care, but about whether it's someone else can hear it or knows this from a sample pack. It's all about how you use things and put them together. But I can convert this to a sampler track. Just going to call it piano, and it will go onto the Right, so first it puts it into a sampler like this. If I look in the sampler, in the edit menu, it's spread it across all these keys, which are where my pads are. This is confusing. Don't know if you're going to be able to see this. Yeah, there we go. Those 16 pads there were not used for about 2 years, and now I've got the hook on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put something on called low latency mode, which, because otherwise I've got loads of latency running. I'm just going to save that. That's fine. What I'm going to do is pitch it up because I've already got it low. So what that means is now, and then I can play that over the existing piano and see what comes of it. And again, this is sort of, I'm kind of winging it with what I'm doing right now, but I just want to show you sort of some of the things that I do that have made making music more fun again, basically. So I don't need that one. I'll turn low latency on. I broke it. Right, time to make it sound fun. So yeah, again, I don't work for the drip company, but I did find this plugin really exciting to play with. So it's got a little delay and stuff. It's quite a cool little preset. I might use half of that preset and then perhaps EQ it a little bit, but I don't really care too much. I'm going to set the level in the sampler to be steady so that it doesn't matter what velocity I play. So not cut up very well. I should have put a bit more time into it. Right, I've got something new. You know, it's probably need to quantize it. Quarter notes, I think. That first one isn't right though. There we go, that's what I wanted to do. So what does it do at the end? Something's not quite right. No, that's good actually. Works perfectly. So I've got another little melody line from chopping up the piano, and because I'm playing it on the pads, I stopped caring about what note I'm playing. You know, when you play a keyboard, even if you're not trained to play a keyboard, you still want to be. You know, I'm worrying about, is it C, D, or E? Now I'm just like, which pads I've got the cool bit. So that's working quite nicely. Now I'm going to go back to it with some more plugins and just see what else I can do to it. So I'm going to loop just 2 bars of it, which will get a little bit annoying, but you'll hear what I'm doing with the plugins more. So in my modulation plugins, I've got any modulation plugin that I have. I honestly don't know what they all do. I just threw them all in here so that they're all ready to play with, right? But what I do know, kind of, this Spec Ops just does weird shit. So also don't be use presets. Basically, don't feel like you have to do everything yourself all the time from scratch. So I can't remember. I haven't used this plugin for probably a year or two. I'm just gonna see what I can do with it. Sloped auto wah. Not quite sure what it's doing. Not doing as much as I thought it would. But the point really is, whatever comes out now doesn't actually matter that much. It's more just that I'm going to have fun with this sound and mess with it more. Oh, that's cool. That's completely ruined it, but it's also really cool. So if I put loads of delay on that and just make that into something different again. Maybe I need to go in and use the mix control of this plugin a bit. It's sort of all or nothing, this one. MP3ify, I've just basically ruined it. Oh, that's cool. So it's working on the high frequencies. That's making it a bit duller. Right, go into my new toys. Endless Smile is just a big reverb, so it's going to make it drift away. But this is, again, just such a stupid plugin, right? It's gone. So this is really good for using for build-ups. You basically just automate the intensity as you get towards the drop, right? But somewhere around there is good. So now I've kind of changed it too much, so I might duplicate the channel and unplug in it. So I've got variations. So that's a cool chain. Piano. Melody effects. Right, this is back to normal. Low drip again. Chuck it through a few different presets, and that's pretty cool. It's a bit too much. I just want it to move a little bit. And maybe I'll use Endless Smile, but on a different preset. What's happened there? It's disappeared. Oh, wow. Just makes it disappear. Yes, it's nice. It makes it distant. Right, now, ping one to the left and one to the right. Cleanish. And then we've got I just realised I had my headphones on the wrong way. I was like, what the hell? Why has it gone to the right? Okay, so that one's affected to the left, that one's to the right. So we've got a main piano hook. And then I've got a second layer that lives in the stereo field. So, yeah, so the points I'm trying to show you, remember, are not like how to write a song necessarily. The pre-production prep stuff, I'm not going to go into doing that properly today because that would be a lesson in itself, right? But because I had lots of good drums ready to go, because combination of me doing some loops myself and using the Pro Packs, this will roll immediately. So we can get an idea of how it flows as a tune. So that should come in later. That's too early for that. Crystal pad. Just to wrap up, what last thing I wanted to show you is that this is actually just a useful thing to know anyway. I'm going to use FabFilter to put it on the highest resolution I can. I'm going to look at what it's doing. So root note, that's the root note of the chord F sharp. Next one's a bit harder to find. No, I've not got the third chord playing. Where does that go? B. So I've got F sharp and a few options on the second one. F sharp, A sharp, B. So what I'm doing is using it to tell me kind of what is happening. I'm using FabFilter rather than my ear. I don't distrust my ear, but I trust FabFilter more. And then bass, I'm not using Serum. You notice there's no synths involved at all. I've got some basses I've already made. Probably not liquid at all. That'll probably work really nicely with no top. So again. To go down further. And makes sense because it's E flat minor. The bass is all black notes, but I used FabFilter as a guide to finding it. Played the wrong note, but it actually sounded quite good. So I've got a quick idea of a bass line. I don't need to go there. Again, I'm just going to quantize the whole thing. Quarter notes I think is going to be right. Ah, where's all the rest of it? Hang on a minute. I think I need to glue it all together. Ah, that's way ahead. And then this time around, that note should have gone high. That's a general tip. Don't try and do the sound at the same time as you find out what you want the bass to do, or anything. Melody, like now I can try different sounds. That's too loud. What you're not seeing is, sorry, I have this on the other screen constantly, so I'm looking at what the bass does as well. Right, I'm going to put some release and a little tiny touch of attack and put it in monophonic, which means the tail won't overlap the next note, but it means we have a tail. That's much better. And now I can go through my library with the same settings and try different sounds from my library. I mean, they're all sub. I'm not going to play the mids, but I could. Just as an idea, if I was making a darker tune, I've got a lot of basses ready to go. Haven't done that many this year. Previous years I've got lots and lots and lots, but the point is not for me to show you I've got loads of bass. It's to remind you, as came up in discussion earlier, put some time aside to do basses, and then when you're trying to write music, you're not trying to play Serum at the same time. The two are not related for me. Like when I'm making music, I want to concentrate on the melody of what I'm doing. Right, so I need to low pass it a bit more. I've got a nice sort of Reese bass to go underneath it. And if I load Serum, I've got stuff ready to go as well. But I think just as a little reminder of that point, going pads, and I've got pads I've made. It's one of my favourite ones. It's just really floaty. So if I just play an E flat minor, that'll probably just work. Too low though, a couple of octaves up. That was good. First chord was good. It's too high. more to the point, really. I'm not too worried about what I'm even doing musically. It's that this pad sounds good, right? You haven't seen me do any synthesis. The pad is just ready. So again, this could be a whole topic in itself. I could talk about sound design and how I made the pad, but today we're talking about motivation and your mental health, and how to keep the music flowing. And by having pads ready to go, all I'm trying to think about is where the next chord is supposed to go. Again, the music I'm making right now is not really that important. It's just more that because I've got a pad ready, I'm not stopping to synthesize at the moment. I'm just making a pad. I'm just making a chord, right? This is stuff I covered. I did a more in-depth talk on this stuff for DBS before, actually. But point is still the same, right? If I've got pads, and coming back to my week analogy, if I made the pads on Monday, I made the bass on Tuesday, went through the breaks on Wednesday, Thursday I found all these samples, and Friday you put it all together, and suddenly you're not trying to write a whole tune on Monday morning. You're just trying to do little bits every single day, and then have a break and go and cook a bolognese and go and watch a film or whatever else is going to help you to unwind, because you're not going to write a new tune every day. But when you do little bits all the time, you'll be more productive in the end. And setting yourself up with all of your tools in a way that it works more quickly will make it work better as well. So having my samples organized and having my plugins organized is a real help for me, and having sounds ready to go. So I've got pads and bass. That little vocal is just going to be the icing on the cake, and then it will actually sound like a song. And I mean, what I'm making is a little bit generic because I'm just doing it quite quickly. You know, I'm sort of just want you to see some ideas along the way, but you can see how the idea can come together quite fast because everything's set up in that way. But also, I'm having fun doing all this stuff. I'm not in any way stressing about what I'm doing or whether it sounds good, and I'm not sort of losing time doing unnecessary things. This is just a cool ping pong delay, so it will move left to right with a delay. I bounce it down. Chop it. I'm going to reverse all of it and see how it sounds backwards. And I'm going to mess with it more. So different preset in here. See what this does to it. A bit too much, so less of the mix. So now I can save that. And also, the final thing I wanted to tell you about today is that I should have said this in advance actually, because it's my intention, whatever had come out of this particular session, I'm going to stem it and I'm going to send it to Phil Tangent to work on, regardless of how far I got or what I did. So rather than, I never was intending to make a full song, I just wanted to show you some ideas. But also what I'm going to do is pass on the idea straight away, so that see what someone else does with it. So keep sharing that idea and inspiration, basically, rather than getting lost in trying to make this for the rest of the day. I can just save over it, it's fine. So now I can just take these parts, send them to somebody else to work on, pass on inspiration. So that's all the things that I wanted to show you, right? I wanted to make a concrete example of the points. So just to recap what I was doing, splice was a huge part of it, because I thought I was looking for dark samples the other day and I found loads of pianos and chords that sparked the inspiration for this idea. I've got lots of fun plugins. The ones I've used a lot today are Drip and EOS for a really washy reverb sound, Endless Smile, some different delays, ping pong delays, and various modulation plugins. But I was able to find them all because of how I've organized my samples. So, I mean, my plugins. So that's my plugin libraries, various different categories, so I can find things very quickly. I've used samples from Spy and Amos and from my sample pack that I'm currently working on. So the drums were already done without sacrificing any quality. And yeah, finally, I added an extra technique with the MPC style resampling, because I can, and because I remember I learned to do that when I was playing hip hop, basically, when I was making hip hop. So all of these little things have meant that my studio time is more fun again. And to be honest, doing something like this, it can be really, really pressured. I mean, I've got a load of music tech students watching me make a tune in real time. It could be quite a pressured situation, but everything I've done here is just show you some of the fun things I like to do in my studio time. So the pressure is not on in the same way. You know, I've just shown you some fun plugins, and it come together as a bit of an idea because of the way I prep. But more importantly, I've enjoyed doing it. I haven't felt under pressure to make something amazing. I just wanted to show you guys some fun stuff, and I've had fun doing it. So the point is really shown, thankfully. Right, so that's enough from me. That is enough Logic stuff. I know we've overrun quite a bit in terms of what we originally planned to do for time, but I'm open to any questions that any of you guys want to ask me through Chris or diving in yourself.
Thanks so much, Phil. I mean, from just an enjoyment standpoint, that was so good. Whilst questions come in, I'm just going to read some of the comments, just because, yeah, just lots of love in the chat here. So Naomi, she had to head off early, but she just said, thank you so much for all the advice and the creative ideas and the plugin recommendations. Will has said, can we have a little bounce of this track when it's finished? Can't believe it took you just half an hour. Joe said he just watched his Liquid back catalog get dismantled and he's not even mad about it.
Well, just watch it back and copy it. There's nothing here that you guys haven't got apart from my sample pack, but that's going to be available. You know, all the tools are there.
Great, man. Well, I mean, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in the chat. I think everyone's just a bit in awe of the last half an hour, to be honest.
And it's Friday as well.
It is Friday. So, yeah, I just want to say a huge thank you, Phil, for taking the time for today. Really, really inspiring stuff. And yeah, just from all the comments that we're getting in the chat, I think everyone's just had an amazing time. So thank you so much.
Excellent. Wicked. Glad to help. But yeah, most importantly is, more than anything, is just two things I want to leave you with. Is the first thing I talked about is, if you are feeling really bad at this current time where everything in the world feels like it's going to shit, talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to your teachers. Don't bottle it up, because it's not weird to find it difficult right now. It's normal, and you'll feel a lot better when you talk to your mates. And when it comes to the music stuff, just try and work out how to make it fun again, because if you're having fun, you generally write better music anyway. So everything I've tried to talk about and show you today is how I've made my music, my studio time, fun again. And because I'm having a lot of fun, the music is flowing really nicely, right? Because I've taken away a lot of pressure from myself, and it's just, if I'm enjoying it and I'm enjoying the time I spend in the studio, it's not wasted. And that's something that you got to get back in your mindset. So whatever works for you in that sense, make it fun, and share it with your friends and your peers as well, so that you're having fun together. Because then it sounds so cheesy to say, but it all just generally flows a lot better if you're able to enjoy it and share that enjoyment with other people. Pass on your enjoyment and excitement, or soak up other people's good vibes when you're feeling a bit low, and it definitely is more enjoyable. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Pleasure. Hopefully, I'll be back at your uni in real life at some point in the future as well.
Yeah, look forward to that, Phil, and we'll definitely get that in
Lovely.
the calendar as soon as we can. But yeah, once again, thank you so much, man.
Cheers. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye bye.